on my way to becoming a man. On my way to Lackland Air Force Base, the train stopped to take on passengers, giving me a chance to get off, stretch my legs, and relieve myself. On returning from the men's room, an elderly black man approached me, wanting to know where the restroom was. And when I pointed in the direction of where I'd just come from, he shuffled his feet nervously and said, "No, the colored room." And being naive and from the north, I had no idea what he was talking about. When suddenly a woman came running out from behind a concession stand, her face red with anger, yelling for the old man to leave me alone. As I tried in vain to calm her down, telling her it was all right, he was only looking for the men's room. "That boy knows where the colored room is," she said, shooing the old man away. As I boarded the train, turning to see him bent over a colored-only water fountain. As the train picked up steam, sparks flying from the tracks, taking me on my way to becoming a man, where I would have my serial number branded into my head and made to wear dog tags around my neck to remind me I was the property of Uncle Sam. I was born in San Francisco, and the next few poems are from San Francisco Poems, which has a introduction by Charlie Plymell, well-known beat poet, you know him. And this is sort of my love affair with my city. I've walked these streets like a crime photographer walks his beat, my eyes taking in her every movement. She is older now, more wrinkled and cranky, much like me, but the two of us managed to get along, like business partners looking after the other's interest. Market Street, once a fashionable socialite, now a gaudy whore. Playland at the beach, a ghostly memory. You have to learn to give and take. You have to learn to adjust. The city is like a strong cup of coffee. Stir her enough and the flavor floats to the top. I have walked these streets all my life in good condition and broken down physique, knowing there is no city like her in the world. She is like a pair of empty shoes sitting under the bed with no feet big enough to fill them. She is like a squirrel running between the live wires of a utility pole. She is like the last bullet in the executioner's gun. She is like Billie Holiday drenched in sweat. She is like the face of God, all forgiving in her insatiable lust for life. A lot of my poems are like photographic snapshots of a particular time and place, only my eyes are the camera. I used to get off the post office, I'd go up to the Tenderloin because it was cheap restaurants, and if you knew your way around, you could find an after-hours bar. Girls of the Tenderloin. The girls of the Tenderloin wear tank tops and short, tight skirts with white shoes showing off black skin, or black shoes contrasting their white skin. The girls of the Tenderloin strut their stuff from noon to 3 in the morning, sometimes later if traffic allows. The girls of the Tenderloin stand out like a dragon in a Chinese New Year parade, moving their hips like hula hoops of yesteryear. Talk heavy, thick slang, their "hey baby, you want a date" cuts through the air like a machete looking for a snake in knee-high grass. The girls of the Tenderloin walk, talk, strut their stuff, not afraid of the lawman's bluff. The girls of the Tenderloin stop traffic with their dark brown eyes, thirsty as a Mexican matador, looking for a kill. I don't know how many people are aware that of the homeless, it's estimated 1/3 of them were Vietnam vets. I took the time to talk to one. Bill. He keeps a photograph tucked inside his meager belongings. 3 soldiers smiling, smoking cigarettes. A Viet Cong in black pajamas hangs upside down from a pole, gutted like a fish. Flesh nailed to Jesus-like cross needs no caption. Guilt shadows him in doorways and under freeways where he makes his home. Incoming artillery tears at his nerves, pieces of flesh stuck to bamboo, like a piece of meat thrust into a tiger's cage. Vietnamese peasants, suspected Cong, haunt his dreams, like a faceless Santa Claus leaving behind a bag of body parts under a scorched Christmas tree. A little lighter. The Black Hawk, 1962. The old Black Hawk booked the best jazz musicians of the day. Getz, Miles Davis, Diz, just to name a few. I went there but twice, once with the poet Jack Micheline, once with a young Latina girl to see Miles Davis blow his magic. Forced to sit in the teenage section because she was only 17. Sipping on a Coke, high on the high notes, smoke curling around the room in long lingering circles, sweet sax, smooth gin fizz, my hand on warm thigh, feeling high, feeling cool, bebop rhythms dancing inside my soul. And then all too early it was over. Memories. No more jazz at the Black Hawk, no more jazz in the Fillmore. Gone the clinking of glasses, the waitress who always knew when your glass was empty. The black female crooner hitting her notes like a midnight train whistle. No cool cats blowing the horn, no more bebop snapping fingers. No fallen angels spreading their legs on the way home from a conversation with God. No black cats riding the Midnight Express, improvising the blues. No strung-out soul-trained musicians blowing mean, clean notes, crucified, suffocating in the smoking mirrors of the mind, gone, buried in the decadence of collective madness. This is the last poem from San Francisco Poems. I'm going to read a couple others. No questions asked. I was going with this woman. She always wanted to know what I wanted. So I wrote a poem on what I didn't want. You think you know me because we share the same bed, know where I work, what restaurants I frequent? You think you know me because I go down on you, pick you up after work, rub your back, vote the same political party? You think you know me because you read my poetry, make love to me? It's all a disguise, desperate for attention, desperate for a meaningful relationship, dinner by candlelight, Valentine's 365 days a year, when life is seldom more than a series of sitcoms with an occasional blockbuster movie thrown in. I don't want Wonder Woman. I'm not into leather or genital torture, physical or mental mind games. I don't want a bimbo. I don't want a mannequin. I don't want a perfect 10 or a woman to tell me how, where, and when. I'm not into glory holes or buttholes. I don't want to meet your mother, your sister, or your brother to make your heart flutter. I don't want a Ford Mustang or solve the mystery of the Big Bang. I don't want parody. I don't seek your charity. I don't want a mathematical equation of clandestine meetings at train stations. I don't want to show you up on the dance floor for you to be my private whore. All I want is for me to be me, you to be you, a chance to see another day through. All I want is to take one day at a time, never again have to make a poem rhyme. All I want is to be here in bed next to you, no questions asked, no faces to unmask. This small chapbook, Love Minus Zero, Neeli Cherkovski wrote a foreword for it. I'm sure he'd be happy to sign it for you. It's 22 poems untitled, but they run in sequence from the beginning to the end of the relationship. So I'm just going to read 2. 19, which was the beginning of the end. We dine at a Japanese restaurant where small talk becomes no talk. Watching you poke at your food, looking like a bored stockbroker with no trades on the board. The waiter interrupts my thoughts, asks if everything is all right, as if he knows something I don't. I finish my drink, speak to silence as you avoid looking me in the eye. Old wounds open like an umbrella as I watch you pick up your napkin, dabble at the corner of your mouth, looking like a hitman contemplating his next move. The table is perfect, the light's just right. So why is it that you leave me feeling like a condemned man eating his last meal? I'm only going to read that one from that book because I want to read a couple poems. I'm not going to read from the Holy Grail, which is Charles Bukowski and the Second Coming Revolution, which is a memoir of my 17 years publishing and Bukowski's relationship to the press. It also has chapters on Mitchell, Kaufman, William Watling, who was maybe one of the best poets to come out of the San Quentin system. And it has a few tales of my own wild days. Probably the most wild one, which I haven't told in full detail except in this book, was my theft, or charge with felony auto theft for stealing a yellow taxi cab. It's actually an amusing story when you read it, but it's nothing amusing at all about going through the justice system. I can tell you that. And it's living proof that Jack Daniels and LSD don't mix. I didn't know I was taking the LSD. It was slipping in the pocket. The only thing I remember really is the 2 guns pointing at me when I stepped out of the car. So I'll close with a couple of poems. I'd like to read a political one, The System, which I wrote a long time ago, but still applies even more so, I think, today. There are men and women who have worked all their lives, who have put in 3 or 4 decades for the right to a pension. There are old people who have worked 20 years or more, only to be laid off and given 2 weeks severance pay to seek a living at half the pay. There are old people who have worked all their lives, only to witness the company go belly up and find there is no pension fund left. You can find them on park benches or wandering sterile supermarkets or sitting at neighborhood bars nursing drinks like a blood transfusion. They come in assorted flavors like lifesavers, some thin and balding, some fat and sweating, some complain bitterly, some too proud to let the pain show, trapped by a belief in a system that has abandoned them. For the most part, they suffer in silence, duly unnoted, to be carted off in meat wagons, to be cut open by a coroner who sees them as morning cereal, who goes about his business like a butcher, thinking of dinner, thinking of a glass of wine, thinking how it used to be, how it might have been, how it should have been. It's the way of life. It's the way of politicians and mice. It's the system. We're just trying to stay alive becomes a small victory. And I'll end with this poem here. Mitchell and I used to talk a lot about what is a poet and what is poetry. We never really came to a consensus. But this poem came out of nowhere about a month ago. It's kind of like what I'd like a poet to be. The poet. The poet knows words are second to action, weaker than blood spilled on the battleground of human rights and dignity. The poet carries the blood of the people in his veins, He doesn't speak in a rambling dialect, but in short sentences. He does not require a dictionary to be understood. The poet is steeped in ancient tradition. He does not play politics, he is politics. The poet is a tree with far-reaching branches. He is the dream within a dream. He is the mother giving a newborn baby the milk of life. He is the thunder in a storm, his words a bolt of lightning that lights up the sky. He does not beg applause or make love to the microphone. He carries humility like a mother holds her baby in a warm embrace. He lives on the edge. His eyes are his tongue is strength. He is a gardener planting seeds in mind gardens. He is the first ray of sun that breaks through the morning fog. His words walk the streets, run a marathon, sleep with him, make love to him. The poet does not die, but lives on through eternity, waits like cosmic dust to be reborn. Thank you. The next poet is David Meltzer. I'm sure doesn't need an introduction. David.